Hello everyone, this is Shadow. Due to copyright restrictions on YouTube, I can't publish many of the audiobooks you love. That's why I've created a special paid service where you can enjoy over 300 high-quality audiobooks from platforms like Webnovel, Pocket FM, Audible, Wuxia, and more. Each novel comes as a one-time purchase, no subscriptions, no hidden fees. After payment, you'll receive full access via Telegram, along with all future updates for that novel. You'll find a wide selection of your favorite genres and titles, always in premium audio quality. Check the full list of available novels in the description. DM me now to get your favorite stories in audiobook form and start listening today. Also, you can request any novel so I can turn into audiobooks. Check out our Patreon for more details.
111. Immunity to instant death, strength soars. I haven't even arrived yet, why are you starting the feast? Behind the trapdoor at the end of the fourth-floor corridor, Fluffy the three-headed dog lay lazily. Its former ferocity seemed to have been beaten out of it, replaced by the unique sense of relaxation of a resigned laborer. These days, Charles came almost every day to perform a sterilization surgery on it. Fluffy initially felt humiliated and angry, but later, sterilization was just sterilization. Anyway, it couldn't beat Charles, that little monster, and its request to leave had been ruthlessly rejected by that old man Dumbledore. What else could it do? Since life was already this hard, it could only let its mindset relax. So now, it was extremely cooperative with Charles. As soon as Charles came in, it would spread its hind legs, letting Charles finish quickly and leave, so it could suffer less. However, this time, after the trapdoor creaked open again and Charles came in, Fluffy, which had already spread its hind legs, didn't feel the familiar sterilization sensation. It couldn't help but turn its head to look at Charles, its three pairs of eyes revealing a human-like confusion. What was wrong with the little devil today? Was the knife dull? Then, Fluffy saw Charles holding up a tube of potion as red as blood. Even through the glass bottle, Fluffy could smell a scent that made its bloodline stir. A look of longing appeared in Fluffy's eyes. If it weren't for Charles, whom it was already scared of to the bone, standing in front of it, it would have already pounced. Charles was quite satisfied after seeing Fluffy's reaction. Immediately after, he threw the reversion potion to Fluffy. Fluffy instinctively opened its mouth and swallowed the reversion potion along with the test tube. Its gaze toward Charles became even more confused, and its heart suddenly sank. Why was the little devil suddenly so nice to it, even giving it a magic potion to drink? This was bad. This wouldn't be its last meal, would it? Starting today, not only would its little head be chopped off, but its dog head would be chopped off too. Just as Fluffy was feeling terrified, suddenly, from its abdomen, an extreme heat swept through its entire body. The three-headed dog's bloodline seemed to riot at this moment, surging through its veins at an unprecedented speed. And after the initial heat, what spread along the veins was a chilling coldness from the netherworld. Filth, extreme poison, and an aura filled with death began to spread and permeate within the three-headed dog's body. Fluffy let out a muffled roar, and its body simultaneously underwent a strange transformation. At the base of its neck, where the three heads originally grew, flesh was constantly wriggling, forming protrusions that looked like tumors. Then, a new head, the same size as the original ones, squeezed through the tumors and emerged. 1, 2. In less than a moment, Fluffy went from having 3 heads to growing over 20 new ones. On its massive body, dense heads occupied every corner of its neck and even its shoulders. If anyone else were here, they would likely be scared unconscious by this sight, and their trypophobia would be triggered. But a satisfied smile appeared on Charles' face. Reversion potion, it really worked. Although it didn't turn Fluffy into a true Cerberus, the bloodline concentration seems to be much thicker than before. The legendary Cerberus was said to have a full 50 heads. Fluffy now had over 25 heads, which could be considered the closest existence to a Cerberus in this near-ancient era. By taking its blood and with Deep Blue's deduction, Charles could also integrate the Cerberus into his magical animagus, gaining a second transformation. If the ancient dragon brought surging power, then the Cerberus represented death and the netherworld. However, at this moment, Fluffy's dozens of heads turned in unison, and its dense eyeballs all looked in Charles' direction, the brutal bestiality in its eyes beginning to revive again. The three-headed dog's body, which was already tireless and thick-skinned, became even more terrifying after the reversion. The mere increase in physical strength would allow Fluffy to easily tear apart its former self. At the same time, it was no longer just brute force like before. As new heads grew, Fluffy discovered that its breath carried the aura of death. It could spray venom with a single open mouth, and some heads could spray poisonous fire from the legendary hell. All sorts of methods could be said to be instantly fatal upon contact. Fluffy felt terrifyingly strong now. What was Charles? Let Dumbledore come, and it would definitely tie that old man Dumbledore here and have people sterilize him every day. But before that, the anger it had suffered from Charles had to be settled, one by one. Fluffy looked down at Charles, its eyes filled with cruelty and mockery. Charles was startled for a moment, then a playful look appeared on his face. Interesting. You think you're back in business, huh? You even dare to look down on me? Then I'll play with you. The next moment, Charles waved his wand. A platinum gold, indescribable image of a demon god, surrounded by surging platinum gold flames, appeared in the room. The Only I Am the Honored God spell combined with the Holy Kingdom spell, after previously eliminating so many Dementors and now dozens of Acromantulas, coupled with Charles' repeated mental transformations, its power was no longer on the same level as before. After Fluffy's reversion, the increasingly strong aura of death, filth, and the netherworld on its body was being completely suppressed by the holy spells. Although the suppression between holy and filthy is relative, powerful filth can also in turn defile the holy. However, even though Fluffy had the bloodline of a Cerberus, it was still unknown how far it was from the legendary Cerberus that guarded the gates of the underworld. Trying to counter Charles' holy magic was like a mayfly trying to shake a tree. Fluffy was initially confused. Dozens of heads roared in unison, letting out low growls full of fighting spirit. Anyone standing in front of a Cerberus, even a god, would be torn to shreds. It charged towards the indescribable platinum gold demon god. The next moment, the holy tentacles extending from the platinum gold demon god combined into an incredibly thick tentacle, which whipped Fluffy violently, as if whipping a top. Fluffy was instantly sent spinning, twirling in place before collapsing. When it reacted, letting out a humiliated low growl and preparing to get up from the ground to fight again, the ancient dragon body of the platinum gold demon god extended its claws and pressed down hard. Boom! On the ground, dense, spiderweb-like cracks spread. Fluffy was directly driven into the ground as if being pile-driven, its entire body sinking into the floor. Ancient dragons have always been known for their strength, their magic is violent, and their physical bodies are equally violent. The Cerberus's physical body was indeed very strong, but compared to an ancient dragon in terms of strength, it was not enough, let alone a being like Fluffy, which had only partially reverted its bloodline. It was even less likely to compete with an ancient dragon in strength. While Fluffy was still struggling to get out of the ground, the platinum gold ancient dragon claws seemed to be playing a game of whack-a-mole. Boom, boom, boom. Continuous, violent impacts struck Fluffy's head repeatedly, until the eyes of Fluffy's dozens of heads became clear again, and it felt the fear of being dominated by Charles. Fluffy let out whimpering sounds of surrender, as if saying it wouldn't dare again, that it was sober now. This little wizard in front of it was too abnormal. Fluffy even felt that Dumbledore would be hammered into the ground like this before long. It couldn't afford to provoke him. It was just a pitiful, weak, and helpless little dog weighing only a few tons. It really couldn't afford to provoke such a terrifying existence. Then, the ancient dragon claw extended, like pulling up a green onion, and pulled Fluffy out of the floor, tearing off a large piece of flesh. Charles waved his wand and collected a full bottle of Cerberus blood. Then he looked Fluffy up and down. Since its bloodline had already reverted, he believed the deduction points provided should be more than when it was just an ordinary three-headed dog, right? Charles remembered that the magical recipes mentioned in the Hufflepuff kitchen didn't seem to have any recipes related to Cerberus. It seemed this was an ingredient that the founder of Hufflepuff had never enjoyed back then. As a member of Hufflepuff, how could he miss out? So Charles gave Fluffy another sterilization, obtaining the Cerberus's dog penis and testicles. Along the way, he also picked off a few huge dog heads as if picking vegetables, then repaired the floor of the room, and left satisfied. Fluffy watched Charles' departing figure, its eyes instantly dimming. Before, he only took the dog penis and testicles, but now he's even taking the dog heads. Angry, trembling, and cold. Why is he only targeting me, one dog? Fluffy lay in the corner, extending its dog paw and clumsily practicing writing. It decided to practice writing well and find an opportunity to write to the Ministry of Magic, asking them to quickly introduce laws to protect three-headed dogs. That despicable old B. Dumbledore is useless. We three-headed dogs must use the weapon of law to protect ourselves. If not, just put me in a zoo, okay? This is simply animal abuse here. Leaving aside Fluffy's full of resentment, Charles had already returned to his room with the three-headed dog blood and set up protective magic. Seeing the large bottle of fresh blood in the glass bottle, Charles' eyes couldn't help but show excitement and anticipation. After waiting for so long, the true Cerberus was finally about to reappear in the world. The next moment, he uncorked the bottle and gulped down the three-headed dog blood, while simultaneously letting out a low shout in his mind. Deep Blue, analyze the three-headed dog bloodline magic for me. A moment later, as a full million deduction points were deducted, Deep Blue sent a mechanical prompt in Charles' mind. Detected that the host has obtained the three-headed dog bloodline. Analyzing three-headed dog magic. The three-headed dog bloodline has shown signs of reversion, with a large amount of Cerberus magic appearing. Further analysis of magic in progress. Analysis complete. Host has insight into the magical nature of the Fluffy. Host, do you confirm using Fluffy as the second magical animagus transformation? Without the slightest hesitation, Charles decisively chose to agree. Immediately, he felt another kind of magic, different from the ancient dragon but equally ancient and powerful, begin to flow in his bloodline. It was as if 10,000 years of solid ice and the bottomless abyss were contained within this magic. Everything related to death, filth, coldness, poison, curses, and so on appeared in Charles' mind. Deep Blue also sounded a series of prompts at this moment. Host has come into contact with high-level materials related to the death domain. The required points for deducing instant death dark magic have significantly decreased. Host has come into contact with high-level materials related to curses. The required points for curse-type dark magic have significantly decreased. For all subsequent dark magic deductions by the host, all deduction points for 3 deductions or less will be exempted, and the points starting from the 4th deduction will also be significantly reduced. Charles took a deep breath, and an uncontrollable look of ecstasy appeared in his eyes. The magical animagus transformation hadn't even begun, but the Fluffy's magic had already given him an unexpected and huge surprise, directly exempting all deduction points required for 3 deductions or less in the dark magic domain. This was arguably the most powerful reduction effect Charles had encountered so far, but thinking about it, it made sense. The legendary Fluffy lived in the underworld. In legends, the underworld was a place where negative emotions such as death, filth, coldness, and terror gathered. Didn't this perfectly align with the elements of dark magic? Acquiring the magic from the Fluffy was naturally an epic boost for dark magic. However, at this moment, Charles' entire focus was still on the Fluffy's magic itself. He let out a low, muffled growl. Magical animagus, Fluffy transformation. Begin. The next moment, Charles' body suddenly swelled up. Brutal bestiality began to manifest on him, and at the same time, an aura of coldness, despair, death, and so on emerged. The temperature in the room instantly dropped to freezing point, and everything seemed to be covered in a layer of frost. The vibrant world seemed to turn black and white, filled with coldness and deathly silence. And in such an environment, Charles not only didn't feel uncomfortable but instead felt like a fish in water, with a sense of comfort as if he had returned home. His body continued to expand, and in a moment, he turned into a giant dog similar in size to Fluffy. But unlike Fluffy, the Fluffy Charles transformed into exuded a more terrifying aura. Fluffy's so-called brutality was simply a docile puppy compared to the feeling emanating from Charles. At the same time, Charles' field of vision became incredibly wide, a complete 360-degree view. He could even see dense heads growing on his neck, exactly 50 of them, a true Fluffy. Although it was still far from the legendary Cerberus guarding the underworld, and might even be swallowed in one bite in front of it, in this near-ancient era, the Fluffy, like the ancient dragon, represented invincibility and death. Charles opened his mouth, and 3 different types of breath attacks, venom, ice, and poisonous fire, instantly spewed out from the 3 most powerful heads, filled with magic representing death. Charles had no doubt that in addition to the inherent poison, ice, and fire, the breath itself was enough to cause any life it touched to fall into death. This was an instant death magic comparable to the killing curse. At the same time, the Fluffy, representing death and guarding the underworld, would naturally greatly reduce the impact of death magic on it. This meant that in the Fluffy form, Charles was almost immune to all instant death magic. Killing curse? Basilisk's gaze? All immune. This was what Charles valued most. After all, while the protective effect of the ancient dragon form's scales and skin was strong, it might not be able to withstand a powerful killing curse. It would be fine if he encountered someone like Dumbledore who didn't use the killing curse, but if he encountered a peak Voldemort or Grindelwald, Charles wouldn't dare to gamble on whether his magic defense could withstand their killing curse. But the Fluffy didn't have this worry. Voldemort's killing curse couldn't do anything to it. Then, Charles cancelled the Fluffy transformation and returned to his wizard form. Even after returning from the magical animagus state, Charles' wizard form was also nourished by the Fluffy's magic. His physical body's strength increased further under the influence of the Fluffy. Now, his physical strength even far surpassed that of half-giants like Hagrid. Hidden beneath the appearance of a slender, handsome young man was a fierce magical creature, capable of wrestling with trolls. Just relying on his physical body, Charles could make most wizards flee in terror. As for his magical power in his wizard form, under the influence of Fluffy's ancient magic, it also reached the peak level of the near-ancient era. Looking at the current era, even Professor Flitwick, the dueling champion with some goblin blood, is probably inferior to Charles in terms of magical power. Apart from Voldemort, Dumbledore, and Grindelwald, who can be called children of the era, no one in the past 100 years can compare with Charles. At the same time, Charles' only I am the honored god spell reflects the changes in all his forms. At this moment, beside the ancient dragon head on the platinum gold indescribable demon god summoned by the only I am the honored god spell, 50 ferocious and huge dog heads also emerged. The entire image of the demon god looked increasingly sacred and bizarre, and its strength soared even further than before. The fluffy transformation caused Charles' overall strength to undergo another qualitative change compared to before. Deep Blue also sounded a prompt in Charles' mind at this time. Fluffy grows in the legendary underworld and feeds on filth, evil, and netherworld creatures. Eating those bizarre dead things in the fluffy form can accelerate the growth of the fluffy form. Hearing this prompt, Charles licked his lips, and a greedy and fervent look suddenly appeared in his eyes. Bizarre dead things. He seemed to have thought of something, and the corners of his mouth widened more and more. In Malfoy manner, ever since he followed Charles to take the residences of Old Crabbe and Old Goyle and received the so-called banquet invitation, Lucius had been in a state of sleeplessness and distraction for the past few days. As soon as he closed his eyes, he seemed to see those two eerie and bizarre residences in front of him, with Old Crabbe and Old Goyle looking at him through the gaps in the curtains with sinister smiles. What the hell is this thing? When did the wizarding world have such bizarre things? Lucius's heart was filled with unease. For several days, he had consulted countless ancient books and also asked many wizards who had made great achievements in exorcism, demon removal, or fighting dark creatures through his connections, but no one had ever heard of a similar situation. Especially after seeing Lucius's sunken eyes and increasingly dark circles from staying up all night, and hearing Lucius's somewhat fragmented and fearful words, several wizards tactfully advised him to go to the psychiatric department of St. Mungo's Hospital, suspecting that there was something wrong with his mental state. But Lucius knew that it wasn't a mental problem. Those bizarre things were real. Now, he could only place his hope on Charles. With Charles' terrifying strength, perhaps he could deal with those bizarre evil things after these few days. Sitting in the chair in his study, Lucius unconsciously felt his eyelids become quite heavy. The fatigue from not sleeping for days struck, making him almost unable to resist closing his eyes. But soon, in a semi-conscious state, Lucius heard the sound of knives and forks colliding in his ears, and it seemed that many people were walking around. Especially a chilling feeling that made him shudder to the bone wrapped around him. That cold and sticky feeling made Lucius instantly wake up, no matter how sleepy he was. And when he saw everything in front of him, his face was filled with despair. He had inexplicably left Malfoy Manor and was now sitting at a long dining table. Old Crabbe and Old Goyle were staring at him with those bizarre smiles. The banquet has begun. Lucius was covered in cold sweat and wanted to draw his wand, but found that his whole body was frozen, making it almost impossible to move. Especially when he turned his head to look at the surrounding scene, his face was ashen, and he was almost engulfed in fear, despair, and madness. The house was full of walking corpses. The people who were originally in those residences were all dead. Lucius even saw Crabbe and Goyle, who should have been at Hogwarts. They seemed to have been called back home and were now also corpses. Crabbe's eyes were gone, but at this moment, he seemed unaware, opening his bloody and empty eye sockets to look at Lucius, and brought a plate to Lucius with aristocratic etiquette. "Mr. Malfoy, this is your appetizer." Lucius's expression was grim as he watched Crabbe uncover the plate. On the plate was a dish of caviar. Just as Lucius breathed a slight sigh of relief, the next moment, the caviar suddenly opened its eyes. Lucius looked at those malicious eyes and only then realized that it was not caviar at all, but clearly the eyes dug out from these corpses. Old Crabbe said sinisterly at this time, "Mr. Malfoy, in order to entertain distinguished guests, we finally managed to gather so much caviar. I even specially wrote to my son to call him back from Hogwarts, but now, why is it only you? Mr. Charles is still at Hogwarts and won't come out. It seems he doesn't plan to attend the banquet, which makes us so sad. He can't escape, he is destined not to escape, but now, I'm afraid we need another person to attend the banquet. Then let your child, the esteemed Draco Malfoy, come." Lucius instantly struggled violently, his eyes filled with rage. But no matter how he struggled, he couldn't pull out his wand. The next second, Draco Malfoy walked in from outside the door with a bewildered look on his face, sitting down next to Lucius like a zombie. It wasn't until then that his eyes gradually cleared. Draco first saw Lucius. What happened? Where am I? Wasn't I sleeping in my room? Immediately after, he saw the strange and terrifying scene around him. Draco's face instantly turned as pale as a corpse, his pupils contracted like pinpricks, and terror overflowed. Old Crabbe and Old Goyle both laughed. Now that the guests are all here, we can begin the feast. Crabbe and Goyle stood beside the Malfoy father and son, extended their bloody hands, each grabbed a handful of caviar, and slowly brought it towards the mouths of the Malfoy father and son. The Malfoy father and son's eyes were filled with despair. They knew with certainty what the outcome would be if they ate this caviar. And just as those malicious eyeballs were about to be put into their mouths, boom, the mansion's main door was directly kicked open by a huge force. A waiter at the door was directly thrown against the wall by the immense force, his bones broken and muscles torn. Charles' figure walked in. Looking at the strange and terrifying scene in the mansion, Charles grinned. Begin the feast? I haven't even arrived yet. What feast are you starting? Join me on Patreon if you want to request a novel, link in the description. 112, Devouring Evil. Now this is a feast. Points exceed 100 million. Charles' arrival caused all the evil creatures in the hall to freeze for a moment. Old Crabbe and Old Goyle both revealed sinister expressions. Esteemed Mr. Charles, we thought you were going to stay at Hogwarts and not come. Your presence truly brightens our humble abode. Come, please take a seat quickly. When the Malfoy father and son saw Charles arrive, it was as if they had seen a ray of hope. Lucius had been feeling utterly despairing and resentful in his heart, wondering why Charles hadn't come and left his son and himself to die in his place. Now that he saw Charles, he truly wished he could slap himself a couple of times, afraid that Charles would know his thoughts from just now and leave. Draco's eyes were even more fervent. He had indeed deeply hated Charles before. After all, the memory of Charles forcefully breaking his wrist and ankle that day was still vivid, and sometimes he would even feel phantom pain. Lucius told him not to think about revenge, but how could a child Draco's age do that? But now, Draco wished he could kneel down and lick Charles' feet. As long as Charles could save him, anything was fine. Having his hands and feet broken was still better than being fed caviar by these ghosts here. At this moment, Charles strode to the dining table and glanced at Lucius and Draco. Their skin was somewhat pale and bluish at the moment, completely bloodless. This was not strange, after all, the house was full of death and evil auras, and living people would naturally be eroded here. Even with magical protection, or summoning a patroness here, they would quickly be annihilated by the dense strange aura. Due to the feedback from Fluffy, Charles, even in his wizard state, didn't feel any discomfort in this aura. He even felt like he had come home, but the Malfoy father and son couldn't. If he didn't care about them, it wouldn't be long before they either went crazy or died here. Charles could still use the Malfoy family's connections and relationships. So the next moment, Charles took out his wand and cast an eternal blazing sun spell towards a wall of the mansion. Light and heat brighter than the sun warmed the mansion. The sacred light and the evil aura were incompatible, directly annihilating this wall. Although the evil aura here was unimaginably dense, even the duration of the eternal blazing sun spell's light was greatly shortened, as if being annihilated by the evil. This wall was also recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye, but before it completely recovered, Charles grabbed the Malfoy father and son, one in each hand. What are you doing here? Get out, stay far away, don't disturb my feast. Immediately, Charles gave a fierce swing and threw the two far out of the mansion. The Malfoy father and son rolled like gourds on the lawn outside, rolling for more than a dozen turns before stopping, their entire bodies bruised. But they seemed not to feel it, their faces full of the ecstasy of surviving a disaster. They never expected that Charles would actually stay among those evil creatures himself, and instead threw them out first. At this moment, Lucius and Draco couldn't help but shed tears. I originally thought he was a little devil, an existence more terrifying and evil than the Black Magic Lord, but now it seems that the Sorting Hat's judgment was still reasonable. Hufflepuff is still Hufflepuff. Charles Evans is just a bit overbearing in personality, but he is a thoroughly good person. The Malfoy father and son had intended to turn around and leave, but looking at the mansion in front of them, which seemed to be shrouded in a thick grey mist, they gritted their teeth and gripped their wands. Although it was terrifyingly dangerous inside, what if Charles could still escape? Perhaps a spell from them outside could help Charles escape. Meanwhile, inside the mansion, the wall that had been blown open had completely healed like a living creature. Old Crabbe, Old Goyle, and those walking corpses surrounded Charles layer by layer, as if to prevent Charles from escaping as well. Old Crabbe and Old Goyle looked at Charles sinisterly. Mr. Charles, you let our other two distinguished guests go. But we prepared so many ingredients for the feast, if we can't finish them, we will be very sad. Then you'll just have to eat all of this for them. Crabbe and Goyle once again held up the caviar, trying to feed it into Charles' mouth. The next second, the two were cut into dozens of pieces by invisible blades, scattered here and there on the ground. The surrounding coldness instantly became even more intense. Old Crabbe grinned sinisterly. "Mr. Charles, why aren't you eating?" But Charles' answer made all the evil creatures pause. Charles angrily rebuked. "Eat? Eat what? Damn it, such a big dining table, and there's only one dish, and it's a cold dish. You call this a feast? I'm more generous feeding dogs than you are, who are you looking down on?" Old Goyle was stunned for a moment, and whispered, "This is just the appetizer, there's more to come." Old Crabbe added, "With distinguished guests arriving, we naturally want to satisfy our distinguished guests. Mr. Charles, what do you want to eat?" One by one, the walking dead stood on the dining table like a beauty pageant. Sharp carving knives sliced open their skin and flesh, and various internal organs and blood scattered across the table, making the place look like a human purgatory. Just as smiles appeared on the corners of the evil creatures' mouths, Charles shook his head, sighed, and showed disappointment in his eyes. "That's it? It's much worse than the village feasts I've eaten. Aren't you nobles? Can't you be a little more particular about what you eat? If you really can't you learn from those yakitori places? Even though they're idiots, at least they have all sorts of fancy names. This is like butchering pigs, who would want to eat this?" Old Crabbe and Old Goyle fell silent again. "Then how do you want to eat?" Charles said indifferently. "You've asked the right person by asking me this. First is the selection of ingredients. The selection of ingredients must be particular, do you understand? If you choose the right ingredients, no matter how you cook it, it won't be bad. First, give me 10 pounds of pure lean meat, without a single bit of fat or sinew on it. Then give me 10 pounds of pure fat, all of it must be fat, don't let me see any lean meat. Then another 10 pounds of half lean and half fat, not a single bit more or less. Also 10 pounds of soft bone, 10 pounds of crispy bone. Fry them until they're crispy and golden in oil, that's when they're fragrant." Immediately, Charles seemed to remember something and pointed at the plate of caviar in front of him with disdain. "This stuff, have you processed it? Damn it, there's eye boogers on it, you want me to eat this? Also, your selection of ingredients is too careless. What are these crooked melons and cracked dates? They don't look fresh at all, many are old, and some of their eyeballs aren't clear. You can tell they've been eating too much and are brainless, and their brains aren't smart. If you're going to serve this, you should first serve the smart ones, with clear eyes and good appearance. Or you can serve handsome young men and women, who are full of youthful vitality and taste good. Understood? This plate is unqualified, take it away. Ah no, forget it, just throw it in the trash can, it's useless." As Charles spoke eloquently, the evil creatures around looked at each other and fell silent. But their eyes all revealed one thing. Is this little wizard, Charles Evans, sick? Has he gone mad? Old Crabbe and Old Goyle, after a long silence, squeezed out a smile again. "Thank you, Mr. Charles, for your valuable suggestions. As expected of someone favored, we will seriously consider it. It's just that this time is too rushed, it might be a bit difficult." Before he finished speaking, Charles showed a sinister grin, grabbed the huge dining table, and slammed it down on Old Crabbe and Old Goyle. "Difficult? If it's difficult, then don't do it. You told me to wait for your feast 3 days ago. Do you know how much I've been looking forward to it for these 3 days? To eat your feast, I've been saving my stomach, starving for a whole day, thinking you could give me something good to eat and fill me up, but this is how you prepare a feast. Forget it, I can't rely on you. To have plenty of food and clothing, I still have to rely on myself. This feast, I'll open it myself." Old Crabbe and Old Goyle were pinned down by the huge, heavy dining table, their heads shattered and brains splattered everywhere, yet they weren't angry at all. Instead, their smiles grew even wider. "Mr. Charles, I'm afraid it's not up to you to decide how this feast is eaten. Since you've come, you must abide by the rules of our banquet. Perhaps you are very powerful among ordinary wizards, but you simply don't understand what you are facing." As they spoke, their brains flowed back into their heads. "See? You can't hurt us at all your struggles are useless. Come, eat this banquet, and you will gradually feel the glory of the Ancient Ones. Don't resist any longer, let our ancient era return to this world." Charles, however, grinned. "I don't understand what I'm facing. What a joke, how could I not understand? Food, 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 it's all food. I've been practically drooling since I first came in. How could I not understand? On the contrary, it seems you still don't understand what you are about to face." As soon as he finished speaking, Charles' body suddenly began to swell. His original small wizard physique expanded to be as tall as the mansion ceiling. 50 hideous heads extended from his neck, each eye revealing hunger and greed. Along with this came an aura of profound depth and coldness, even more intense than that in the mansion. The Fluffy transformation was displayed here. This sudden drastic change stunned the evil creatures on the spot. Old Crab and Old Goyle couldn't help but widen their eyes. What is this? Wait, is this Fluffy? How is that possible? The ancient era has just begun to return. How could the Fluffy from the ancient times appear at this moment? Before they could finish their exclamations, Charles let out a sinister laugh. Dozens of hideous dog heads, as if greedily fighting for food, swarmed towards Old Crab and Old Goyle. In a moment, these two evil creatures, whom Charles' previous multiple eternal blazing sun spells couldn't kill, were torn to shreds by Fluffy and swallowed piece by piece. For these evil creatures, an existence like Fluffy was their natural nemesis, even feeding on them. After devouring these two evil creatures, Charles could feel an even colder and more powerful magic surging within Fluffy's body, and Fluffy's size also expanded slightly. At the same time, the deep blue system prompt sounded in his mind. Deduction points plus 10,000. Deduction points plus 10,000. A series of prompts sounded. These two evil creatures alone provided Charles with over 500,000 deduction points. Charles' 100 eyes were practically turning green. It could enhance Fluffy's magic and provide so many points. What kind of place was this? This was heaven on earth. He let out an excited low growl. 50 heads suddenly extended and stretched from his neck, reaching towards the remaining evil creatures in the mansion. In a moment, over a dozen evil creatures were snatched back by Fluffy's heads. Many of them were even bitten by several heads at once, directly torn into pieces. The next moment, Fluffy opened its gaping maw, and the heads with food made swallowing and chewing sounds. Meanwhile, the heads that hadn't found prey yet kept dripping poisonous saliva, stretching out from the neck and biting at the remaining evil creatures in the mansion. This is mine. This is mine. For a time, within the mansion, compared to those evil creatures, Charles' Fluffy transformation seemed to be the most evil existence. However, what made Charles dissatisfied was that there seemed to be so many evil creatures in the house just now, but how did they all disappear in the blink of an eye? Damn, the Fluffy transformation is good, but there's one thing, 50 heads, 50 mouths, it's too damn food consuming. Several of my heads haven't even had a taste yet, and they're all gone. As for the deduction point prompt sounding in his mind, the number also made Charles feel somewhat dissatisfied. Old Crab and Old Goyle together gave over 500,000 deduction points. He originally thought the other evil creatures would be the same. That would have been a revenue of nearly 10 million points, but who knew that the points provided by the other evil creatures were far less than Old Crab and Old Goyle. Sweeping away the evil things in this mansion, only 2 million? Charles remembered that the broken parchment he had found on Lucius, just that small piece with nothing on it, had provided him with 1 million points. And for such a strange phenomenon to appear in this mansion, the thing behind it must be more powerful than a broken piece of parchment, right? Only 2 million? That doesn't make sense at all. Then, Charles looked at the walls of the mansion, and his eyes suddenly lit up. Brothers, we can't get enough of the meat, but Fluffy is appearing for the first time, so we need to use our canine strengths. Let's tear down the house. Immediately, 50 heads extended out again. One bit the beam, another bit the pillar, and some gnawed on the wall. Charles' dog paws weren't idle either, digging at the foundation with a whooshing sound, swallowing the splashing cold dirt. The next moment, the dense sound of deduction points notifications rang out again. It was even more intense than when he was devouring those evil things. Charles' eyes showed ecstasy. I knew it, I knew there wouldn't be just that little bit. He let out a low growl, and 50 heads swept across, engulfing everything in sight. The strange dripping portraits? Eat. The cabinets inlaid with human hands? Eat. The bleeding toilet? Eat, 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 eat. The mansion began to slowly tilt and collapse at a speed visible to the naked eye, like a cake, being devoured from the inside by Charles. The deduction points income in Charles' mind directly soared from 2 million, and by this point, it had broken through 15 million. Charles let out a hearty laugh. Now this is a feast. Awesome, awesome. While Charles was feasting in the eerie mansion, as the walls collapsed, even the grey thick fog was sucked up by Charles like a drink. The Malfoy father and son, who were waiting outside anxiously, also saw this terrifying scene inside the mansion. The huge Fluffy stood tall, 50 heads stretched long, devouring everything. When Draco saw Fluffy, his legs went weak, and he collapsed onto the ground. What is that? What about those things? Lucius swallowed, his eyes full of horror. This scene, why did it feel so familiar? Earlier in the Forbidden Forest, although he had closed his eyes, he could still hear the chilling chewing sounds Charles made when dealing with the Acromantula. Now those evil things were swept away, but a terrifying monster that devoured everything appeared in the mansion. Draco seemed to have reacted as well, his voice trembling. Could this be? Before he could finish speaking, Lucius covered his mouth with his hand. Lucius said tremblingly, "I don't know, we don't know anything, and we didn't see anything. Quick, if you don't want to die, close your eyes and forget what happened today. Knowing too much will kill you." Just as the two closed their eyes and trembled, Charles took a big bite out of the mansion's foundation, chewing it up and swallowing it like a cookie. Beneath the foundation, in a storage room, an ancient parchment with writing came into Charles' view. The material of the parchment was exactly the same as the one Charles had swallowed from Lucius. Charles instantly understood the whole story. When the Necronomicon appeared back then, Old Crab and Old Goyle told Lucius that the book was broken and they only got a damaged piece of parchment. This was not true, they also got a page with complete writing, but they selfishly kept it for themselves. Originally, everything was fine, but as the ancient era that Dax spoke of was about to descend, this strange parchment from the Necronomicon was also gradually reviving. When Old Crab and Old Goyle committed suicide due to Charles' mental magic, it caused this strangeness. The root of everything was this parchment from the Necronomicon. As Charles' gaze fell upon the writing on the parchment, the strange characters seemed to come alive, flowing like tadpoles. In a trance, Charles heard Dax's frenzied roars, the sinister voices of Old Crab and Old Goyle, and some older, more distant, more maddening sound. At this moment, he had long surpassed Snape's occlumency, suffering an unprecedented impact. Madness, madness. It was as if some ancient, colossal form was about to appear before his eyes. Behind the dark sky, above the stars, it was as if eyes were opening. Until the next moment, one of Charles' heads suddenly extended and bit down on the Necronomicon's parchment. Charles roared at Deep Blue in his mind. Deep Blue. As always, Deep Blue did not disappoint Charles. As long as he ate it, Deep Blue could convert everything. The parchment disappeared, and the influence of the madness vanished instantly. What followed was an unprecedented surge in Charles' deduction points in his mind. 20 million, 30 million, 40 million. A single Necronomicon parchment brought Charles a full 70 million points. Charles' deduction points, which had been plummeting during this period, were completely replenished at this moment. Furthermore, adding the points from devouring the evil creatures in this mansion earlier, his total deduction points reached a number he had never seen before. Charles' eyes widened as he looked at the 9-figure total deduction points. Over 100 million. Join me on Patreon if you want to request a novel, link in the description. 113, Sunflare. Deducing the Killing Curse. Seeing the total number of his deduction points, Charles was a little incredulous. With his current mental strength, counting numbers was instantaneous and impossible to get wrong. But this time, he couldn't help but count several times before finally confirming that the points were indeed not something he had misread. Hundreds of millions of deduction points, this was definitely the most fruitful time Charles had ever had. His eyes revealed a burning intensity. The Necronomicon is truly a good thing, and anything related to the ancient era provides truly extraordinary deduction points. It seems I need to pay more attention to collecting information related to the Necronomicon in the future. Also, the future direction of industrial upgrading for the farm is set. From now on, it will gradually transition from raising magical creatures to raising those eerie things. Acromantulas, basilisks, and the like are too weak. Tentacles are the direction representing advanced productivity. Thoughts flickered in his mind, while Charles' gaze swept towards the Malfoy father and son outside. Seeing them all consciously covering their eyes and ears, as if afraid of seeing something they shouldn't, a strange look appeared in Charles' eyes. He had to admit, Lucius's discernment was really good. He had been thinking of avenging Snape and getting back at Draco, but now he was so sensible. This was quite similar to his performance in the original work, highlighting a very flexible stance and principles. But to say he was rotten to the core, that wasn't the case. Charles had thought the father and son would take advantage of him holding back the evil entity to escape, but he didn't expect them to still be waiting outside with their wands in hand, thinking of helping him. One could only say that human nature was indeed quite complex. However, this did make Charles' attitude towards the Malfoy family change for the better, becoming much gentler. He took a step and walked in front of the Malfoy father and son. Immediately after, Lucius and Draco cautiously opened their eyes. Seeing that it was Charles who appeared before them, rather than the sinister faces of Old Crab and Old Goyle, tears welled up in the father and son's eyes. A smile played on Charles' lips. "What, I thought you were hoping I'd perish together with the thing inside. You're actually crying?" Lucius's usual elegance was completely gone at this moment. What happened today had truly scared him to death. If Charles hadn't thrown him and Draco out, he felt he would have gone mad inside even if he didn't die. Hearing Charles' words at this moment, Lucius, with snot and tears, half flatteringly and half sincerely said, "There are no two suns in the sky, Lord Charles, you are the only sun in my heart. How could I wish for the sun to fall? Then there would truly be no light in the world." As he spoke, Lucius even directly pledged his loyalty. "The Malfoy family swears to serve Lord Charles until death." Charles nodded slightly, said nothing more, and directly assigned Lucius his task. "Use your connections to inquire about and investigate information related to the Necronomicon, or any similar incidents to the one we encountered today." A simple sentence made Lucius's face light up with ecstasy. This meant he had been accepted by Charles, at least he didn't have to worry about being silenced by Charles at any time. Lucius quickly made a guarantee. "Even if it means losing everything, I will definitely find the information Lord Charles needs." Charles then waved his wand, and Lucius's sleeve rolled up, revealing the dark mark branded on his arm. Then, under Lucius's shocked gaze, Charles casually waved his wand, and the dark mark, which no one in the entire wizarding world could remove, instantly vanished, replaced by a platinum-colored, indescribable pattern of an elder god. Lucius's eyes widened, and his body couldn't help but tremble. Voldemort had been gone for many years, and during this time, he had tried more than once to wash away the dark mark on his body. After all, this thing was definitely a ticking time bomb. If it were ever brought up again, he would face huge trouble. However, no matter how many wizards in related fields he found, they were all helpless against the dark mark. This was set by Voldemort himself, and even Dumbledore was powerless against it. But now, Lucius could hardly believe his eyes. Charles had just casually waved his hand and washed away the dark mark. What did this represent? A storm surged in Lucius's heart. He had thought that while Charles was formidable, he might still need some time to grow to reach the peak of Voldemort's power. But today, it seemed his judgment was far too wrong. Perhaps Charles has already surpassed the peak Voldemort. An 11-year-old little wizard, surpassing the most terrifying Dark Lord. What level will he reach if he continues to grow? Dumbledore? No, Dumbledore couldn't do anything to Voldemort either, so it's only a matter of time before Charles surpasses him further. The four founders of Hogwarts? Lucius felt that Charles might not stop there. The four founders might not be much stronger than Dumbledore, and at the age of 11, they would still be beaten by Charles. A name appeared in Lucius's mind: Merlin. Perhaps Charles has the potential to stand shoulder to shoulder with the legendary wizard Merlin. Thinking of this, Lucius couldn't help but breathe rapidly, and a huge sense of joy overwhelmed his heart. Being a dog for an 11-year-old little wizard might sound a bit embarrassing, but being a dog for the young Merlin? In an epic, that would be considered supreme glory. He had hit the jackpot. Then, Charles waved his wand again, leaving the same demonic mark on Draco's arm. He said lightly, "When you encounter a desperate situation, press the mark, and I will come. But don't expect me to be your nanny. Unless you make a contribution, you only have one chance to save your life." Hearing Charles say that this mark could be used to call for help, Lucius felt another surge of emotion. As expected of Lord Charles, comparable to Merlin, look at how grand his vision is. He is so generous and considerate to his subordinates, and even grants them a chance to call for help and save their lives. Look at the dark mark left by Voldemort. You're basically notified one way, and whether you can press the mark depends on Voldemort's orders. And this aesthetic, that dark mark doesn't look like a good person at all, without any aesthetic sense or temperament. Unlike Lord Charles' mark, which is so elegant and aesthetically pleasing, it's clearly not some common stuff. By the time Lucius recovered from his emotions, Charles had already disappeared from his sight. Draco, who was beside him, was still in a dreamlike state. "Father, so from now on, we are really working for Charles." "Ah no, Lord Charles." Lucius's expression also became serious. "This is a rare opportunity. You probably won't find many people in history who have such an honor. You must do a good job with the tasks assigned by Lord Charles. Draco, you will first be responsible for gathering information at Hogwarts. Some of your classmates come from quite extraordinary families, and they might have relevant clues. And I will specifically organize people in the wizarding world to investigate the Necronomicon and various evil incidents that Lord Charles wants us to investigate. To cover our tracks, this organization will be disguised as a school, using academic research as a cover. It will be called Miskatonic University. The members responsible for investigating these incidents will be collectively referred to as investigators." While Lucius was busy arranging matters related to searching for the Necronomicon, Charles had already put the previous events out of his mind. Since he had taken subordinates, he naturally didn't need to inquire about everything. He just needed to ask about the progress every once in a while, otherwise wouldn't he be working for his subordinates? Lucius was able to make the Malfoy family prosperous, and Charles believed that he didn't need to worry too much about this aspect. Taking subordinates was to reduce his own troubles and give himself more time to spend on self-improvement, so he naturally shouldn't put the cart before the horse. Now, he should also think about how to use these hundreds of millions of points. Charles concentrated and thought. His strength is now very powerful. If he uses all his trump cards, he would be considered an elite in the Middle Ages, easily defeating the half-dead Voldemort of today. Adding his powerful holy magic and Fluffy's restraint on the killing curse, even the peak Voldemort would probably be in a sorry state due to the restraint. However, Charles calculated that most of his strength was in the magical Accio. Whether it was the ancient dragon form, the Fluffy form, or the likely heavenly phoenix form he would obtain in 2 months, they were all far superior to his wizard form. This made Charles shake his head. He still didn't like having any shortcomings. Even though his wizard form was already almost unrivaled in the near ancient times, Charles still felt it wasn't safe. What if he encountered an enemy and didn't have time to transform into a magical Accio? He couldn't perfectly predict every battle and transform in advance every time, could he? Although the transformation only takes a brief moment, at Charles' level, this brief gap could very well allow an opponent to find a fatal opportunity. Therefore, he was not in a hurry to improve the already strong magical Accio form. Charles' focus was on his wizard form. First is destructive power. The Eternal Blazing Sun spell and Sunless Sun spell derived from the Lumos spell felt incredibly powerful before, but now, even with triple casting, they feel a bit lacking. For my current mental strength, they feel a bit light. I need something more powerful. Charles' eyes flickered, and after a moment, he made a decision. Deep Blue, Lumos spell 6-time deduction. Continue to strengthen the destructive power of spells like Eternal Blazing Sun and Sunless Sun for me. Burst, I want an instant burst. The moment Charles decided to deduce the Lumos spell for the 6th time, a full 2 million deduction points were deducted. It should be noted that at this time, Charles had already collected a massive amount of high-level materials at Hogwarts, and had even learned some of the essence of spellcasting from Professor Phileas Flitwick. The materials obtained from this could reduce the deduction points required for all magic. With these materials accumulated, Charles estimated that the deduction of spells like the Lumos spell would only consume 1/10 of the original points. But even so, it still consumed a full 2 million points. This meant that without the blessing of materials, it would require 20 million points to complete this deduction. This was already at the level of ancient dragon language magic. Charles' eyes also showed anticipation. The reason he chose to continue deducing the Lumos spell first, rather than rededucing other spells, was because according to his past experience, the further the deduction, the more qualitative the change each time. Even if the Lumos spell, as a basic spell, started at a slightly lower point than other spells, after 5 deductions, the power of the 6th deduction would definitely not be something that ordinary spells could catch up to with 4 or 5 deductions. It seemed that the result of this deduction could be highly anticipated. At this moment, countless pieces of knowledge began to pour into Charles' mind. The path after the Eternal Blazing Sun, Charles had already understood in the previous deduction. The next step was to simulate celestial bodies to enhance the destructive power of the spell. By the end of the deduction, solar fusion, gamma-ray bursts, and even black holes were all possible. Even the physicists from Charles' previous life before transmigrating dared not say they could fully understand these astronomical phenomena, let alone the magical world of 1991. But Deep Blue had infinite possibilities. In Charles' mind, an image of the sun appeared in a trance. On the already incredibly hot surface of the sun, there were areas that were countless times hotter than the rest. There, high-energy particles carrying immense energy erupted. Its name was Sun Flare. Charles subconsciously also waved his wand. Intense light and heat gathered on the mithril wand, and the Eternal Blazing Sun spell was on the verge of being cast. But at this moment, Charles did not release it as usual, but kept recalling the scene from just now in his mind. The next moment, his hand gesture changed, the spell was whispered, and the corresponding spell structure formed in the outside world also changed accordingly. On the dazzling sphere formed by the Eternal Blazing Sun spell, one area seemed to gather energy from other places and began to become increasingly dazzling. Immediately after, a solar torrent erupted fiercely from the flare, and the scorching white flames swept forward like a stream of light. Everything in front of Charles, the ground, rocks, soil, rivers, and even the air, instantly evaporated. Deep Blue's prompt sounded in Charles' mind. Lumos spell 6-time deduction complete. Host has obtained the spell, Sun Flare. Concentrate the power of the Eternal Blazing Sun at the flare, releasing a torrent of sun flames, incinerating everything in front. Possesses 10 times the instant burst power of the Eternal Blazing Sun. Feeling the power of the sun flare, Charles took a deep breath. Just that one strike, even if his ancient dragon form could withstand it, he would definitely be severely injured. After all, no matter how strong an ancient dragon was, it was impossible to directly withstand the power of a solar flare. Even if this was just simulated with magic power, it was definitely not something a flesh and blood body could resist. This is just a single cast. If I also use the multiple casting technique learned from Professor Phileas Flitwick, 3 instant sun flare bursts. Just thinking about that scene made Charles feel terrified. Up to this point, the sun flare after 6 deductions had instantly become Charles' strongest attack method. However, his deduction this time was not yet over. So far, the magic I have mastered, whether it's transfiguration, holy magic, or the series of Lumos spell derivatives, should all be considered within the scope of white magic. But black magic, as the most bizarre and dangerous part of magic, can stand against white magic, so it naturally has its unique aspects. It just so happens that with the help of Fluffy this time, I can directly waive the deduction points for the first 3 deductions of black magic. I can completely raise black magic to a very profound level in a short period of time. Especially that spell. Charles' eyes showed anticipation. The Killing Curse, currently the most destructive spell in the magical world. What would it be like if it were deduced 3 or more times, or even 4 or 5 times? Join me on Patreon if you want to request a novel, link in the description. 114, Killing Curse Lightning Chain, 1 spell clears the screen. However, while anticipating, Charles also thought of the shortcomings of the Killing Curse. Although the Killing Curse in the original work was powerful, in the hands of a wizard who could unleash its power, it was practically guaranteed death upon impact, and almost no protective magic could defend against it. But its shortcomings were also obvious. It had no lock-on, no area effect, only extreme single-target damage. This led to the fact that in many major battles in the original work, the number of people killed by the Killing Curse while constantly moving was actually not large. It was only in the hands of Voldemort, the wizard who understood the Killing Curse best in the magical world, that the Killing Curse could be called a finger of death, killing wherever it pointed. But that was only against wizards far below his level. In the original work, when fighting Dumbledore at the Ministry of Magic, Voldemort's supposedly guaranteed death-killing curse was completely useless. Instead, he heavily used transfiguration to fight Dumbledore. This was actually a manifestation of the Killing Curse's shortcomings. At this level, the pace of battle was too fast, and apparition was used extensively. Reaction speed was also astonishingly fast due to the strength of the mind. Avoiding the green light of the Killing Curse, unless restricted by other spells, was not difficult at all. As for the shortcomings of the Killing Curse, everyone understood them, and it wasn't that no one wanted to improve it. But the Killing Curse itself was an extremely high-level spell. How could it be easy to improve? Even Voldemort himself, after so many years, failed to create a more advanced Killing Curse. At most, he had some minor improvements that only he could utilize. But for Charles, with Deep Blue, even the Killing Curse could be deduced and improved, completely compensating for these shortcomings. However, Charles was not in a hurry to start deducing the Killing Curse. Instead, he planned to deduce the other dark arts first. After all, in the process of deducing other dark arts, he would also acquire new knowledge, which might be useful in the subsequent deduction of the Killing Curse. Anyway, after obtaining the Cerberus transformation, the first 3 deductions of all dark arts consumed no points at all. This was completely enough for him to instantly become a top master in the field of dark arts. A light shone in Charles' eyes. Deep Blue. Imperious Curse, Cruciatus Curse, Sectum Sempra, Fiendfire Curse. All the dark arts I have obtained, deduce them 3 times each. As Charles murmured, the next moment, his mind was flooded with seemingly endless knowledge of dark arts, like a tide. Torture, control, shredding, burning. All sorts of intense malice sprouted, but they had no effect whatsoever before Charles' clemency. An expression of understanding also appeared on Charles' face. After coming into contact with dark arts, he also understood why they were called dark arts. Because unlike white magic, which required positive emotions, dark arts required intense malice in one's heart. It required the caster to intensely want to torture others, slaughter others, burn others, or control others like puppets on a string. Compared to positive emotions like protection, beauty, and kindness, such malice would be clearer and more intense. This led to the fact that among wizards with the same magical power and mental strength, one using white magic and the other using dark arts, the spell cast by the one using dark arts would often be much more powerful. But at the same time, casting dark arts came at a price, which was the gradual distortion of the mind. Just like killing, friends who kill often know that the first time is the hardest. It's difficult to take that step. But once you take it, the second and third times become easier and easier. Using the killing curse, even without killing someone, was equivalent to releasing an incredibly intense killing intent mentally, which had a stronger impact on the mind than killing 3 or 5 people. Using it once or twice might be fine, but long-term use of such dark arts would inevitably lead to mental alienation. Killing like a butcher and being addicted to torture were the inevitable results of using the killing curse and cruciatus curse. Other dark arts would also cause mental distortion, which is why most wizards immersed in dark arts were extremely wicked. Charles also felt a strong mental impact at this moment. Although his occlumency could shield these effects, no one could guarantee that under the long-term impact of dark arts, occlumency could completely isolate all effects. Just look at Voldemort. When Voldemort first appeared, forming the Death Eaters was actually just organizing a political party, not particularly extreme. But the further it went, the more radical the actions of the core members, including Voldemort himself, became, to the point where the reputation of the Death Eaters was now completely ruined. So Charles immediately specified the direction for the first 2 deductions of these dark arts. First, enhance the stability of the spells. Just like deducing the Patronus charm, I don't need spells that cannot be cast without specific emotions. Second, remove the mental impact of dark arts. I don't need spells that affect myself. Spells are just tools. How can a person be changed by a tool? Is it the person controlling the spell, or the spell controlling the person? After a moment of contemplation, Charles specified the direction for the third deduction. Finally, deduce it in a more extreme direction. I think the effects of dark arts in the current magical world are still too mild, especially the unforgivable curses. Are these really unforgivable? The Imperious Curse can be resisted, and the control time is not long, with no after effects. As an unforgivable curse, it's a bit watered down. Combine it with the Mirror of Reincarnation deduced from Legilimency, strengthen the control effect of the Imperious Curse, and at the same time achieve the effect of permanently modifying memory, consciousness, and even personality. Also, the Cruciatus Curse, it's not good enough, it's really not good enough. It might work against those with weaker wills, but for those with firm resolve and deep-seated hatred, the Cruciatus Curse isn't enough to instill fear. For example, Neville's parents, when tortured by Death Eaters using the Cruciatus Curse, never yielded. They were even driven mad by the spell in the end. This kind of torture is really not effective, it's too crude. The Cruciatus Curse I want should not only torment the enemy's body but also their mind. It seems it can also be combined with the Mirror of Reincarnation, intertwining physical and mental pain. No need for multiple castings, just one time is enough to make the enemy feel what it means to wish they were dead. And the other dark arts spells are the same. Deep Blue, they're already dark arts, let's go for something extreme. As Charles spoke, Deep Blue operated frantically. Every minute and every second, the dark arts knowledge flashing through Charles' mind was enough to make those who prided themselves on mastering dark arts turn pale with fright. Because even if all the dark wizards in the entire magical world were gathered, it would take an unknown amount of time to complete so many dark arts improvements. And the things flashing through Charles' mind were too evil, too extreme. Compared to these things, even the most ruthless dark wizards were as docile as sheep. When all the dark arts spells Charles knew had been deduced 3 times, Charles opened his eyes, feeling as if a lifetime had passed. This deduction was the longest one ever. Although it was only 3 deductions, there were too many spells deduced, and the knowledge and materials involved in the process were vast. But the gains after this deduction were also terrifying. Deep Blue's prompt sounded like a screen refresh. Imperious Curse 3 deductions completed. Host has obtained mental spell, Soul Reconstruction. Based on the Imperious Curse, combined with the derivative spell of Legilimency, the Mirror of Reincarnation, it continuously manipulates the life and spirit of the cursed person in repeated reincarnations. Each reincarnation will permanently modify the target's memory and consciousness. The greater the difference in mental strength, the more significant the modification effect. For cursed individuals whose mental strength is inferior to the host by more than one era, the host can even modify them into a completely unfamiliar personality. Cruciatus Curse 3 deductions completed. Host has obtained mental spell, Pain Piercing the Heavens. Unlike the Cruciatus Curse, which purely creates extreme physical pain to destroy the spirit, this spell also combines the host's other materials in mental spells, amplifying the cursed person's mental pain exponentially. The cursed person will feel the extreme pain that destroys the spirit. The pain of their entire life will appear before their eyes, and even the strongest spirit will suffer a heavy blow. One by one, the dark art spells, after having their side effects removed, were further deduced in a more extreme direction. At this moment, Charles could be considered one of the only 3 dark arts masters in the recent ancient era. Although he might not be as deep in absolute dark arts as Grindelwald and Voldemort, his breadth in the field of dark arts was also something those two couldn't compare to. After all, a person's energy is limited, and Grindelwald and Voldemort were no exception. It was impossible for them to master everything in the field of dark arts. But Charles was different. He could be said to be proficient in almost all current dark arts. Fiendfire, malicious transfiguration, jinxes, curses. Charles was proficient in everything, especially in the relatively niche field of curse magic. Charles' attainments could be said to be unparalleled in this era. After all, this stuff doesn't cause direct damage. Compared to the killing curse, which can directly kill enemies, it's still too indirect. Therefore, among the already not so many dark wizards, there haven't been many who have studied curses since ancient times. In today's magical world, the most famous curse still comes from Voldemort's curse on the Hogwarts defense against the dark arts position. After traveling around Europe back then, experiencing several dark arts transformations, and his strength soaring, he failed to get the position of defense against the dark arts professor at Hogwarts, so he cursed that no one could stay in this position for more than a year. To be honest, this curse is a bit childish, and it's been quite a few years now. But today, the effect of the curse is still ongoing. Even Dumbledore had no way to deal with this curse and could only change the defense against the dark arts professor every year. Even Hogwarts' protective magic failed to withstand this curse. This is also enough to prove that the field of curse magic is too niche, and even the top wizards have no solution for this stuff. And now, Charles' attainments in curse magic are definitely more than one level stronger than Voldemort's back then. In this field, there is absolutely no problem for him to call himself the strongest in the world. Even at Hogwarts, under Dumbledore's nose, Charles casting a curse could leave Dumbledore helpless. A smile appeared on the corner of Charles' mouth. Also, I remember my spacetime mark magic allows me to curse a marked entity from thousands of miles away. It's just that I haven't had the chance to deduce curses before. Now I can finally utilize this characteristic. I have to say, it's really good at annoying people. If that old Dumbledore annoys me again, I'll use curse magic to teach him a lesson. In addition, Charles' mental strength also soared after these dark arts deductions. So many spells undergoing 3 deductions simultaneously meant a vast amount of knowledge. At this moment, Charles filled all the knowledge generated during these processes into his memory palace. The area of the memory palace has expanded by nearly half compared to before, and the boost to Charles' mental strength is naturally not insignificant. Even without deducing the killing curse yet, just these dark arts deductions have raised Charles' strength by another level compared to before. After digesting these gains, a hint of fervent light ignited in Charles' eyes. So, it's finally time for the killing curse. Deep Blue, deduce it for me. The first 2 deduction directions are the same as before, removing unstable casting conditions and removing side effects. As for the 3rd time, Charles pondered for a moment. The killing curse's instant death effect is already extreme enough. Even if the power is enhanced, a person can't die twice, right? So there's no need to continue deducing the power for now. Instead, he needs to work on the hit rate. Therefore, Charles issued an instruction to Deep Blue. For the 3rd deduction, I want to greatly enhance the hit rate of the killing curse. It would be best if the killing curse could have an automatic targeting function. Such a request, even if Voldemort heard it, he would curse Charles for being too greedy. Killing curse automatically locks onto targets? What good things are you thinking of? But Deep Blue said nothing, silently bearing everything. A moment later, Deep Blue's prompt sounded in Charles' mind. Killing curse 3 deductions completed. Host will no longer need to harbor killing intent when casting the killing curse. Host will no longer suffer from side effects such as mental distortion when casting the killing curse. The killing curse cast by the host will interact with the spacetime mark spell. The killing curse will constantly track the location of the spacetime mark and correct its path until it hits the target or its magic power is exhausted. Charles took a deep breath, a look of surprise appearing on his face. He didn't expect that although Deep Blue couldn't give the killing curse itself a targeting function, it could indirectly achieve it by using the spacetime mark spell he had previously deduced. The spacetime mark spell was already one of the most irresistible spells in Charles' hands. Even the ancient being in the Romanian Dragon Blood Sea could only watch helplessly as Charles imprinted a demolished character on his coffin. It is likely that even Dumbledore would have no way to deal with the spacetime mark spell. In other words, it is very simple to put a spacetime mark spell on an enemy. With the help of the spacetime mark, the killing curse can constantly target, greatly increasing the hit rate. The next moment, Charles looked up at the sky, his gaze falling on a flying bird. Waving his wand, a space-time mark was instantly imprinted on the bird. Then, Charles chanted the unforgivable spell, Avada Kedavra. A dazzling green light immediately whistled out, then flew towards the sky on its own. Even the bird felt terror from the magic power carrying the aura of death, constantly accelerating its wing beats, trying to escape. But the green light of the killing curse was like a living thing, chasing the bird and drawing arcs, then hitting it accurately. Instantly, the bird lost its vitality and fell straight down from the sky. Seeing this scene, Charles nodded with satisfaction. This way, even if the enemy is riding a flying broom or various flying tools, his killing curse can hit accurately. As long as the enemy doesn't fly too far in this short time, causing the killing curse's magic power to dissipate too much, they will be killed. If Voldemort in the original work could have developed the killing curse to this extent, Harry Potter would have ended long ago. However, next, Charles licked his lips. He still had a lot of points now. Deducing so many dark arts didn't even consume any points. The killing curse is completely worth deducing further. The hit rate of the killing curse is solved, but it still has a problem, it's single target, it can't attack groups. Charles' mind flashed with classic spells from some fantasy games in his previous life, Lightning Chain. As long as it hits one enemy, the spell will chain and jump to hit more enemies. If the killing curse could also do this, wouldn't it truly become a clearing divine skill in large-scale battles? One killing curse down, directly clearing a battlefield. When this idea appeared in his mind, Charles couldn't stop. Deep Blue, killing curse fourth deduction. Push it in the direction of enhancing group attacks. The idea is Lightning Chain. Deduce a killing curse Lightning Chain for me. Join me on Patreon if you want to request a novel, link in the description. 115 There is only one Dark Lord in the world, and that is Charles. The next moment, the killing curse, which had just completed a miraculous leap and gained the ability to target enemies, began to evolve in an even more astonishing direction. Area of effect, chain reaction. Such an idea would make even Voldemort exclaim how utterly extreme it was. It needed power, accuracy, and now it even needed range. How could there be such a crazy idea that demanded everything, and how could it possibly be achieved? However, Deep Blue was like an emotionless deduction machine. As soon as it received Charles' command, it began to work with all its might to achieve the goal. Could the killing curse chain? At least from Charles' current understanding of the killing curse, it was very difficult to make it chain purely. This required extremely high attainments in the fields of death magic and dark magic. Voldemort wouldn't even dare to imagine such a level. After all, the death magic in one killing curse was limited, only enough to kill one person. It was almost impossible to kill multiple people with one killing curse. But if a clever method was used, it might not be impossible to achieve. After Charles' 3 previous deductions of curse magic, he had obtained a curse called Death Wither. Its effect was to cause the cursed object's corpse to erupt with death-filled magic after death. If the killing curse killed an object cursed by Death Wither, then the killing curse, which should have exhausted its death magic, would be replenished at this time, becoming filled with death magic again, and could continue to kill the next object. As for the chain tracking effect, that would require the combination of the time-space mark and the curse. First, mark a group of targets with time-space marks, then apply the Death Wither curse through the time-space marks, and then release the killing curse. The killing curse would continuously chain between the time-space marks, and at the same time, because the Death Wither curse could replenish death magic, it could maintain its peak lethality, thus creating a chain effect. This ingenious idea became clear in Deep Blue's deduction. Countless details that black wizards would spend their entire lives researching were also being perfected at an astonishing speed. Finally, Deep Blue's prompt sounded in Charles' mind. Killing curse fourth deduction completed. Host has obtained the chained killing curse, which integrates the time-space mark, Death Wither curse, and killing curse. At this moment, a fiery light burst forth from Charles' eyes. The chained killing curse was a success. From now on, he had another terrifying trump card in his hand. Voldemort and Dumbledore would probably feel their scalps tingle when they saw it. At the same time, Charles could proudly declare no one understood the killing curse better than him. Immediately, Charles took a deep breath. He had wanted to find a few birds to test the chained killing curse, but after that dazzling green light earlier, it seemed like not a single living creature could be seen nearby. Birds, beasts, insects, and worms had all been scared away. Just then, Charles' expression suddenly shifted slightly. He felt it. The marking magic he had left in Azkaban had been triggered. The Dementors had sent a message. It seemed that the prisoners in Azkaban were causing a commotion. Charles' eyes instantly turned cold. Azkaban was now his Dementor breeding ground, and the prisoners inside were valuable resources for breeding Dementors. He was still waiting to harvest a new wave of Dementors, and now there was trouble. The next moment, Charles' figure flashed. Accompanied by a sonic boom, he appeared on the sunless island of Azkaban. After Charles appeared, the Dementors also gathered around in fear and unease. Charles quickly understood what had happened. It was the drug lords he had captured. Since they were Muggles, they had very low resistance to Dementors, and coupled with the fact that they were used to living extravagant lives, they couldn't survive in Azkaban at all. More than half of the drug lords had already begun to give up their enthusiasm for magic and were rioting, wanting to leave. Due to the large number of people, the Dementors did not dare to handle it on their own and could only ask Charles to come over. Charles' face showed a mocking expression as he looked at the central fortress of Azkaban. After the feedback from the ancient dragon and the three-headed hellhound, his physical body and five senses were far beyond ordinary people. Even here, he could hear what sounded like passionate speeches coming from inside. A blonde, blue-eyed drug lord was currently surrounded by people, raising his fist and shouting, "Let us go! Human rights, we want human rights. The wizarding world can't ignore human rights either. We're going to sue the Ministry of Magic, we're going to the Wizengamot, let us go quickly." After this period of time, they had already inquired a little about the situation in the wizarding world. The wizarding world has a government, and even a court. The one presiding over the court is even hailed as the strongest wizard of this century. Charles is powerful, but can he really contend with the wizard named Dumbledore? As long as they make a big fuss and bring up Dumbledore's name, Charles will surely have reservations and be forced to let them go. Charles can't possibly kill all of them, can he? That would be too cruel. They truly couldn't endure this kind of life for another day. To leave, they didn't care about anything. However, those former Death Eaters, and Sirius Black, looked at this group of clamoring Muggles as if they were looking at dead people. Ridiculous Muggles, did they really think Dumbledore could scare Charles? This lawless little wizard even killed Bellatrix Lestrange, the Dark Lord's lover. This shows how utterly reckless he is. How could a Dumbledore, who has placed so many restrictions on himself, possibly deter him? Now the only question is how Charles will kill this group of Muggle drug lords. Will he use his miraculous transfiguration, or the terrifying magic that once shattered the clouds, or perhaps some unforgivable curse? Just as these wizards were wondering in their hearts, the next moment, marks suddenly appeared on the bodies of the noisy drug lords. Along with them came a strong aura of curses. Before the Death Eaters and Sirius Black could figure out what was happening, they witnessed a terrifying scene that nearly scared them out of their wits. A green light whistled and arced, flying into the central fortress and landing on the leading blonde drug lord. Is this the killing curse? Since when did the killing curse curve? And can it accurately hit targets within a crowd? This was already terrifying enough, but what followed was even more terrifying. After killing the first drug lord, the green light did not dissipate. Instead, like a green lightning bolt, it continuously leaped among the crowd. Wherever the green light passed, the drug lords who had just been clamoring fell down like harvested wheat. In the blink of an eye, a whole area of people turned into corpses lying on the ground. Charles' voice, instructing the Dementors, drifted over faintly. Throw the bodies away. Don't let them take up space here. If anyone else causes trouble, don't bother me. Just kill them directly. Immediately after, there was a loud crack of apparition, announcing that Charles had left Azkaban again after this short period of time. However, the awe, terror, and stunned expressions of all the wizards present did not diminish in the slightest with Charles' departure. The scene of the green light winding and leaping seemed even more terrifying than a nightmare to them. The killing curse became an area of effect spell. What version of the killing curse is this? Dolohov, one of the top powerhouses among the Death Eaters, now wore an expression of doubting life itself. While we were locked up in Azkaban, did some kind of magical revolution happen outside? Has the level of magic now increased several times compared to when we were captured? How did this killing curse become like this? Even the Dark Lord's killing curse back then. His words were cut off abruptly by the other Death Eaters. Dark Lord? What Dark Lord? Dolohov, don't talk nonsense. There is only one Dark Lord in this world, and that is Lord Charles Evans. It's back to updating. The previous break was really because seeing last month's income was a bit disheartening. After going premium, I updated 10,000 words every day, many days even 15,000 or 18,000 words. I worked myself to death, only to see the income was just over 2,000. It was truly disheartening, and I doubted my decision to write fanfiction. After all, I have to dance with shackles on, and I want to write something new, but the difficulty of getting recommended is twice as high as other genres. I really regret it, but these past few days, I still couldn't let go of this book. I still want to come back and finish writing my ideas. I'm too lazy to look at data or anything. I'll just push through until I reach 1,000,000 words. Join me on Patreon if you want to request a novel, link in the description. 116 Above the Era. You know nothing of power. After a loud bang, Charles returned to the forbidden forest at Hogwarts, then slowly hummed a tune as he walked towards the castle. Having completed the fluffy transformation, made rapid progress in the field of dark magic, and acquired the killing curse, a divine skill capable of clearing the field, his overall strength had soared by an immeasurable amount compared to before. At the same time, thinking about the things he could still scheme for at Hogwarts, a strong sense of anticipation arose in Charles' heart. With the instant death resistance brought by the fluffy transformation, the basilisk could hardly pose a threat to Charles anymore. He didn't have to worry about accidentally making eye contact with the basilisk and getting killed. So, setting up a basilisk breeding base in the Chamber of Secrets could be put on the agenda. Just the basilisk venom alone could continuously bring in a generous amount of deduction points. In less than 2 months, the Paradise Phoenix would hatch again, and Charles' last magical animagus transformation would be completed by then. His magic power level would inevitably rise to the medieval level. At that time, his overall strength would soar by another large margin. Facing Dumbledore with the Elder Wand, although he probably still couldn't beat him, he could at least turn a one-sided fight into a 3-7 split. As for Grindelwald, he had been imprisoned for too many years. Prison life had ravaged his body and spirit, and his condition was far worse than Dumbledore's, which would greatly affect his strength. The current Grindelwald was already far behind Dumbledore. Charles could even say that he had full confidence in defeating or even killing Grindelwald. In other words, it wouldn't be long before Charles could truthfully say that in the wizarding world, he was second to none and above an era. This progress was much faster than Charles had estimated before entering school. Charles' mood was naturally excellent. However, upon entering Hogwarts Castle, Charles' good mood vanished. The Slytherin students in the corridor all wore a badge on their robes, with a line of text flashing and scrolling on it. Professor Slughorn is the potions master, Charles is the potions SHT. It was just like in the original book in his previous life, during the Triwizard Tournament, when the entire Hogwarts supported Cedric Diggory and sneered at Harry Potter. Only this trick was brought forward by several years and used on Charles. Charles frowned, his gaze seeming to pierce through the Hogwarts ceiling and land on the headmaster's office. He muttered to himself, "Dumbledore, are you really that bored? I remember I already warned you, but you still seem to think of yourself as some high and mighty, infallible deity, playing your own tricks, and not taking my words to heart at all. You want to play savior training, I have no opinion, I respect and understand it, but why do you have to involve me?" Charles sighed faintly, his gaze gradually turning cold. "All right then. You want to play, huh? Then don't be a sore loser." Meanwhile, Draco had also returned to Hogwarts from Malfoy Manor, leaning on a cane. After experiencing the terrifying and bizarre scene with Old Crabbe and Old Goyle earlier, and witnessing Charles' terrifying power, Draco's original trace of resentment towards Charles had long since vanished, replaced by extreme fanaticism and worship. He could ignore the physical pain. What he wanted to do most now was to collect information about these strange events for Charles. But as soon as he returned to Slytherin House, he saw a scene that terrified him. Everyone in Slytherin was wearing badges insulting Charles. Upon seeing Draco return, some people even enthusiastically applauded him and handed him a brand new badge. The student who handed the badge to Draco also winked and said, "Draco, we specially saved this for you." The word SHT next to Charles' name is even gold-plated, fitting your status. "Come on, if it's inconvenient for you, I'll pin it on your chest." However, these words made Draco let out a terrified scream like a goose. "Don't come over. You fking don't come over. Keep that thing away from me, far away, don't let me see it." The Slytherins were stunned for a moment, then someone realized. "Do you think the word SHT is too vulgar?" This person said with a bit of regret. "But we thought about this homophone for a long time, how great is it? But it doesn't matter, we have other versions here. Although they're not as unpleasant as SHT, they can still help you vent your anger." As he spoke, he took out a few more badges and tried to pin them on Draco's chest. But the next moment, Draco swung his cane and angrily hit the student, roaring with angry, trembling, and terrified words. "What did you do? You don't understand at all. If you want to die, don't drag me into it." As soon as he said this, the little snakes in the Slytherin common room were all taken aback, looking at Draco with an expression that said, "Are you crazy?" Was this still the proud Draco Malfoy they remembered? He was practically a different person. It was no exaggeration to say that the feeling Draco exuded at this moment was one of extreme awe towards Charles. This also caused a strange look to appear in the eyes of the little snakes. The heir of the Malfoy family, was he beaten into submission after being severely thrashed? This was truly interesting. One should know that a large part of the right to speak in aristocratic circles was actually closely related to the performance of the heir. If the heir of an aristocratic family performed poorly, their family's status would inevitably be affected. The Malfoy family was currently considered the leader of the aristocratic circle, but after so many years, some nobles who were on the verge of collapse after the war had also recovered, and they were very envious of the Malfoy family's status. Now that Draco was showing such fear and awe towards the enemy who had humiliated him, it made some of the little snakes start having other ideas. Many people showed playful expressions on their faces, and some even directly mocked him. Did Charles Evans not only break your bones, but also shatter your courage? This is Hogwarts, and Charles Evans just received a punishment. What could he possibly dare to do? Draco, do you really need to be this afraid of him? Someone even extended an invitation to Draco. It seems no one has seen Charles recently. We originally wanted to give him a surprise at the dinner, but we never had the chance. Now it's perfect. We heard he finally reappeared. Let's do something big at the dinner tonight. How about we sing the Ode to Charles the Great shit in chorus? Draco, do you want to lead this? Draco took a deep breath, tightened his grip on his cane, and looked at these Slytherins, issuing a serious warning. Out of the little bit of camaraderie we share as Slytherins and being in the same circle, I advise you, if you don't want to be unlucky, just honestly do nothing. Otherwise, even Dumbledore might not be able to save you. Immediately after, Draco turned and left the Slytherin common room. Behind him, however, came the mocking laughter of the little snakes. It seems he was truly scared out of his wits by Charles. He doesn't even have this much courage. To be honest, I hate Gryffindor, but now it seems the Gryffindors are all stronger than Draco. Even Dumbledore might not be able to save us? Ha ha ha, does Charles dare to do anything to us again at Hogwarts? He was just punished. If he dares to act again, the school board will definitely expel him. I really don't know what Draco is so afraid of. Hearing such laughter, Draco shook his head repeatedly. A bunch of fools who think they're smart. You know nothing about power. Originally, Draco was still a bit hesitant, but now, he had finally made up his mind. I can't associate with these fools in Slytherin anymore. If I stay here any longer, I'll be dragged down and killed by them sooner or later. Transfer houses, I want to apply to transfer houses, from Slytherin to Hufflepuff. Join me on Patreon if you want to request a novel, link in the description. 117 Dumbledore, don't cry. At this moment, it wasn't just the Slytherin common room that erupted in conflict. Gryffindor was also filled with arguments. Hermione's face was flushed red, her gaze fixed on the badges worn by many Gryffindors. Even Ron, one of the trio, wore one on his chest. I can't believe you would wear such insulting badges about Charles. Charles isn't some potion's great poop, he's a unique genius. He even taught Slytherin's head of house a lesson. He defeated Snape, challenging the injustice at Hogwarts, and you applauded then. So how can you be like this now? Hermione's impassioned words failed to elicit much of a response. After all, the Gryffindors in the original story, perhaps it was because they had to bully each other with Slytherin from the moment they entered school, they were all incredibly aggressive. When House Cup points were deducted, they glared at Harry Potter, completely disregarding the fact that Harry Potter had won victories for the Gryffindor Quidditch team. If you could say they were still young then, several years later in the Triwizard Tournament, there were still Gryffindors wearing badges that said, "Support Cedric" and "Potter stinks." This only shows that Gryffindor and Slytherin, the two houses that couldn't stand each other and considered each other mortal enemies, were actually very similar in some ways, both being prone to bullying. It was just that one followed Voldemort's ideology, and the other followed Dumbledore's. As Hermione kept trying to get the Gryffindors to take off the badges on their chests, Ron directly exploded. Enough, Granger. All you talk about every day is Charles, Charles. Today you say how much of a genius he is, tomorrow you say how amazing he is. You're practically not a Gryffindor. Besides, the Charles you talk about doesn't seem to be as proficient in everything as you say, not as amazing as you say. At least in potions, he's definitely not good, far worse than Professor Slughorn. After losing face, he hid away and disappeared. I'm afraid only you and those Hufflepuffs are still defending him. I really don't understand. Harry is clearly the potions genius, our Gryffindor potions genius. He was also the first year to become a seeker, yet you brag about Charles Evans every day. Are you a Gryffindor or a Hufflepuff? Since you like Charles so much, and admire Charles so much, why don't you go to Hufflepuff? We Gryffindors don't like people who betray their own, Miss Know-it-all, I'm talking about you. These words, when spoken, actually caused a round of cheers and applause in the Gryffindor common room. Gryffindor had also applauded Charles before, that time because Charles defeated Snape, making Slytherin lose face, and also exposing the long-standing injustice of the House Cup. But now Snape was gone, and the new head of Slytherin was Slughorn, who was much more likable than Snape, and his point deductions and additions were very fair. Since the point of conflict, Snape, had disappeared, the current conflict had instead become Charles' lack of respect for Dumbledore, and Hufflepuff also seemed to seriously threaten Gryffindor's chance of winning the House Cup. This year was Gryffindor's most hopeful year. During this time, Gryffindor's targeting of Charles and Hufflepuff had naturally escalated. Amidst the rounds of applause, a flush of excitement appeared on Ron's face. For him, this meant recognition. From childhood, with his older brothers before him and a younger sister who needed more pampering after him, he, stuck in the middle, hadn't received much attention and recognition. This applause made Ron feel absolutely elated. He pinned the badge on his chest more conspicuously, and with his head held high, he said, "I'm not afraid of Charles Evans, Gryffindor is fearless." Didn't he come back? Then I'm not only going to wear it here, but also at the feast tonight, right in front of him. These words caused another round of cheers. Many Gryffindors who enjoyed watching the fun and didn't mind making trouble expressed their support for Ron. But Hermione no longer cared about these things. What Ron had just said felt like a heavy punch to her heart. What did he mean by betraying her own? What did he mean by asking if she was a Gryffindor or a Hufflepuff? And what did he mean by Miss Know-It-All? Was this the nickname her Gryffindor classmates had given her? Oh, here it came again, just like in Muggle school, just because she was excellent, because she was studious, because she wanted to answer questions, she would receive strange looks from others and be given all sorts of nicknames. Why didn't they mention it when she earned points for Gryffindor? Why didn't they mention it when they borrowed her homework? Tears welled up in her eyes, and for the first time, Hermione began to regret coming to Hogwarts, coming to Gryffindor. It was no different here, even the atmosphere was far worse than in Muggle school. At least there, she had many excellent and studious people around her. But here, Hermione could no longer hold back the tears that were about to spill from her eyes. Crying, she ran out of the Gryffindor common room. The little lions, however, didn't pay attention to any of that. Speaking of which, the Gryffindor lion emblem is quite fitting. Lions are social animals, and here, everything revolves around the Lion King. Those who are too weak will be bullied, and those who are too strong will be ostracized. Only those who are just right and fit and can survive peacefully. Harry Potter felt a sense of unease when he saw Hermione leave, but soon, Ron grabbed Harry Potter's hand and raised it high. Harry is the potions genius, the Quidditch genius, the pride of Gryffindor. Whatever Miss Know-It-All wants to do, let her do it. The Gryffindors surrounded Harry Potter, also dispelling the slight thought in Harry's mind of wanting to care about Hermione. Now, he was the center of the crowd. Perhaps Hermione deeply regretted coming to Gryffindor, but for Harry, here, he experienced a tension and a feeling of being the center of the universe that he had never had before. The anxiety and confusion he felt when he first arrived in the wizarding world had long since vanished, replaced by a strong sense of belonging. At this moment, for Hermione, this Miss Know-It-All whom he had only recently met, to leave tactlessly in this situation. Perhaps he could wait a bit, let Hermione calm down herself first, and reflect on why she didn't fit in. In the headmaster's office, Dumbledore was well aware of what was happening in the common room. A few smiles appeared on his face. The treatment and attention Harry Potter was receiving in Gryffindor now was exactly what he wanted to see. Of course, he wouldn't let Harry Potter have everything go smoothly all the time, lest Harry Potter continue to be arrogant and complacent. Arranging appropriate setbacks at the right time was also necessary. But for now, let Harry Potter enjoy it. As for Hermione Granger, the situation she faced reminded Dumbledore of his own time studying. When he first came to Gryffindor, he was also ostracized, but this period in his memory didn't last long, and the impression wasn't very deep. Compared to the magnificent life that followed, this brief unpleasantness seemed so insignificant. Just endure it, and it will pass. Let Miss Granger be wronged for a while first. There will definitely be an opportunity for her to return to the side of the savior Harry Potter later. As for Charles Evans, Dumbledore's lips curved into a smile. Perhaps this matter could also teach him a lesson, letting him know that he wasn't omnipotent. Everything is developing in a good direction, finally getting back on track. At this moment, Charles looked at the students in the corridor wearing badges and with mocking and sneering expressions, his gaze gradually turning cold. So, these bratty kids who don't know the immensity of heaven and earth are truly the most annoying. Especially when these bratty kids have a bratty parent behind them who knows everything but does nothing. The level of annoyance is truly doubled. Dumbledore, what makes you think you can control everything? After Ariana, after Grindelwald, you still haven't changed this bad habit. You like arranging things so much, why don't I arrange something for you too? Just don't cry, don't break down, after all, you love playing this game, don't you? Charles slowly clenched his mithril wand. Join me on Patreon if you want to request a novel, link in the description.
Hello everyone, this is Shadow. Due to copyright restrictions on YouTube, I can't publish many of the audiobooks you love. That's why I've created a special paid service where you can enjoy over 300 high-quality audiobooks from platforms like Webnovel, Pocket FM, Audible, Wuxia, and more. Each novel comes as a one-time purchase, no subscriptions, no hidden fees. After payment, you'll receive full access via Telegram, along with all future updates for that novel. You'll find a wide selection of your favorite genres and titles, always in premium audio quality. Check the full list of available novels in the description. DM me now to get your favorite stories in audiobook form and start listening today. Also, you can request any novel so I can turn into audiobooks. Check out our Patreon for more details.